Hello, my absolutely beautiful astrology soulmates, and welcome to this video where we are going a little bit old school. Like, I remember when I first started doing videos and I was literally using a little board and I was writing on it. And we had recently an electrical situation happen and I needed to actually teach one of my classes old school, just print out paper, get a marker, get a board and write it out. And I loved it. I just loved it. So I figured for this Lunation video, we're going to go old school. You can look down, you can see the chart. I'm going to walk us through what is coming up and in store for us with the full moon that is coming in Cancer. It's just coming up January 13th at 5:27 p.m. That's Eastern time, in case anybody wants to pull up their own digital version of this chart so that you can go along with us, okay? Now, this is an exciting lunation. It's an exciting lunation to me for a couple reasons. First of all, it's our first one happening in 2025. Like, that is incredible. So welcome again to 2025. But this lunation is something we want to remember also happens inside of a lunar family. Okay, so this is something that you've been working on for a while. And now we are at the pivot point. We're at the point where you get to look at what you need to end, what you need to acknowledge, or what kind of adjustment you're going to make to pivot and then commit to a new direction. Now, that all does sound great, but yes, we are still under a Mars retrograde, and we see that Mars is going to have a big portion of this story. So what you're ready to commit to and get ready to move forward, you have built it. I want you to have a moment here, even before we really jump into the astrology, to realize you have built something, you have changed something, your intuition, your ability to be nourishing to yourself and others, your tenderness, your gut instinct, your connection to that has changed, it has heightened. So I want you to make sure that you're celebrating this as well, okay? Now, a couple things before we actually jump into looking at and breaking down this lunation for us is, first and foremost, you want to make sure you have your own chart. Get your own chart, print it out. If you are one of my students, please print out your chart so that you know what you're looking at. And if you're just trying to learn and understand how this lunation is really going to impact you, print out your chart or get your chart so you can see where this 24 degrees of Cancer is actually happening in your particular chart. Because listening to it in the general is great, but the best astrology is your astrology. So make sure you get your own chart. And if you want to learn to read that big, beautiful chart, come and join us in the GAFA School, the Grace Astrological Fluency Academy. Classes 101, 101 Part 1, and 102 are now available for you to start learning the language of astrology. And you know what? Not everybody wants to be an astrologer, but if you like astrology, I want to help you be your astrologer, if nothing else. Okay? All right, let's jump in and talk about this lunation. Now, first and foremost, let's talk about the larger 27-month cycle that this lunar family and that this lunation sits inside of. So I want to take you back first to July 17th of 2023. Okay? Because this is when we had the new moon. And this was at 24 degrees of Cancer. So 24 degrees Cancer, okay? So this is when, in this story, you were planting your seeds of intention to begin something new. You were at the start of this, and Cancer itself is a cardinal energy. So you were ready to move something forward, and you were ready to move it forward with more themes that had to do with your emotions, had to do with safety, had to do with security, had to do with feeling loved and nurtured. Maybe some things you were starting to let go of, some insecurities, especially fears around abandonment or being rejected in some way, okay? At this lunation, you were planting your seeds of intention, though, to have a newness in this area of your chart. And in order for us to have a newness, the new thing doesn't just come in. Sometimes we have to be shown what we have to get rid of and outgrow. That's where I think it's impressive and exciting to go back now to April of 2024, April 15th of 24. This is when we had the first quarter moon that was happening at 26 degrees of Cancer, okay? So it's telling the next portion of this story. Now, when we are looking at that first quarter moon, this is a time where you would have really been in action. You're in action. You're taking action. You're moving. You're building. You're maybe tackling things. Maybe even things feel like there are more chaotic events happening and you're having to really think on your feet and take action. But this phase for you between April and now in January has been about building. What have you been building and constructing here to increase nourishment in your life? Things around your family, things around your real estate. Where have you been encountering these really challenging themes that you've needed to learn some level of disengagement from? Right? Was it that abandonment? Did you need to make decisions for your family that you were even afraid they were going to reject you if you made those decisions? What was going on for you? The other thing to understand is that at that first quarter time, the universe was doing the heavy lifting for you. People, places, and things would have been falling out of your life, likely at a speed that just made your eyelashes roll back. Because that was the universe saying, now you asked for something, you requested something at that new moon time. These things, these people, places, things, ideas, beliefs, behaviors, whatever, they are not in alignment with the vibration of what you requested at that new moon time. So I am going to get rid of them. You just keep building so that you're building something really solid here, okay? Now, as we come to this lunation on January 13th of 2025, this is your full moon time. So this is when I'm saying you are going to, first of all, have a celebration. I encourage you to really genuinely celebrate here because you did build something at the full moon time. We're no longer under the dark moon. All of the light in the sky is on. You can see it. You can see everything that's around you. You see it for what it is, right? And now you get to go, wow, what did I build here? Where have I grown? Where is my emotional, intuitive, instinctive being a lot more alive and aware? And now what we're going to do is we're going to be invited at this lunation to shed the things that we don't need anymore. They don't serve a purpose on this journey anymore. Now, looking at the fact that in this lunation, the players that we have in the game is that, first of all, we have it as a full moon, okay? So we see that we've got the moon in Cancer here, opposing the sun in Capricorn at 24 degrees of Capricorn and 24 degrees of Cancer. The actual aspect to make a full moon is an opposition. And when the sun and the moon are opposite each other, this highlights the difference between what we call sacred tension, our needs and our wants, my insides versus my outsides. In this particular axis, we look at my home versus my family, what I feel, responsible for and what I really want to do versus my home and my family. So we have this axis that is pulling against each other anyways, and it really can be tense. It doesn't necessarily mean that things are happening in tension outside of you, but the internal tension can be a lot as well because it's in that push and pull dynamic. Now, just to say a little bit more about this Cancer-Capricorn axis is that the Cancer side, this is where we have this urge to nurture ourselves, to connect with family, to connect with our lineage, our roots, our own body, our own being, the shell that we live in, right? But we want to at a very deep level. This is not intellectual. This is at a very deep emotional level. Honor our own emotional needs and the emotional needs of those around us. And to the other side, on this Capricorn axis, this is the push for us to not only fulfill responsibilities that we have, but it's like, I want to achieve my goals. I have these ambitions, and I also need to be accountable in the outside world as well, right? So the axis is never good or bad. It's just that we hold responsibilities in both places that go in two different directions. So the first question in this push-pull dynamic that we have between our public lives, our public lives, our private lives, our home lives, our public lives, our work lives, right? The first question we're being invited to consider here is that even though I've built something beautiful and I have grown, I have changed, I have been presented with things that have challenged me, now I need to stop for a minute and take a look at Have I been neglecting one side of this axis now, whether it's my own emotional needs or it's my professional responsibilities? This lunation is illuminating that. It's illuminating where we need to pivot because we need a realignment in order to be able to go forward, because neglecting either side of the spectrum is not only going to lead to frustration, which we feel the frustration, right? But it's also going to lead to external frustrations that pour out to the people and the situations around us. But finding the balance, because in an opposition, we just want to find the sweet spot in the middle where both sides are integrating. We're finding what's the sweet spot in the middle. And when we do that, this is where we have the growth. This is where things become more fulfilling, okay? Now, the full moon here, it's not just about balance. It is the release as well. There's something that we need to be releasing in order to bring it to a close and have this balance. Now, we see that this lunation is also in conjunction with Mars playing here with this moon in Cancer, okay? But Mars is retrograde here in Cancer. Mars is retrograde back in a space that it's already been. But with Mars being retrograde here, you know, the moon in this conversation can start to stir up some lingering emotions, especially ones that have been tied to resentment, frustration, or maybe there's an unsolved conflict that's been going on, especially anything around family, home, our close relations, any of those kinds of things, those close to us, close to our core relationships will likely have our attention. And the Mars retrograde here, it's urging us, or it's inviting us to the table to, first of all, slow down and reassess where our anger or where our drive has been misplaced. It's misplaced. It's out of whack in some way. That's not exactly right. That's not exactly going to bring the desired outcome, right? And this conjunction of these two dancing together is a complete amplification of the emotional intensity of this lunation. But it also offers the opportunity to do what Mars does. Mars is here to burn away the poison, to get it to come to the surface so that it can burn it away, or to cut away. Now, Mars in retrograde is here to cut away, shed the old wounds of the past, and approach the challenges, approach the new building, the new gardening with a fresh perspective. So this is actually, while it is an intense aspect, it absolutely is, there's a space here where I think you get to ask yourself, just under this lunation, what emotional patterns, what resentments, what old stories that you're telling yourself are you ready to release? Because under all of the light in the sky with a full moon, now is the time to face them. Now is the time where you're going to express your feelings. And now is the time, and especially over the next couple weeks, where you're going to be able to work towards letting them go, okay? Now, there are always supporting aspects that show up somewhere in the dance of what we're experiencing, and we definitely have them here. This particular full moon is really well supported by two aspects that I'm really excited about. The first is Uranus. Now, we see that the moon here is in a really nice sextile to Uranus, who's right here at 23 degrees of Taurus. But this also means that the sun is going to be in an earth trine. Ooh, don't mind that line. That's going to be in an earth trine over here to Uranus as well. So let me talk about this for just a second. Let's talk about the trine first. So the Sun-Uranus conversation that's happening. Here's their sun. Okay, so the sun is here in Capricorn, and it's trine this Uranian energy over in Taurus. So Uranus has been shaking, not stirring, the Tauran area of your chart for quite some time, but it's a really earthy connection. So what we know first and foremost is that this is bringing earthy, grounded, in the material reality, practical, inspired energy to help you have tangible changes. Tangible, you can touch them. When we're dealing with earth signs, they want to touch it. They want to hold it. It's in this realm, right? So there's something it's a tangible change, right? Now, this is still Uranus, so I also think that this becomes a little bit of a call for us to actually break free from outdated habits, outdated clothing that you're wearing, outdated structures in your home that just don't make sense anymore, right? And instead, what we're going to do under a trine, because it's easy energy, is embrace something that's maybe a little bit more progressive. Okay, what is a more progressive solution? What's a solution, especially here, that you can bring into the Capricorn area of your chart? What is a new solution or an innovative solution in your career, in your personal relationships, in your personal goals, in your ambition, right? Where can we see that you can just innovate, come at it from a completely different perspective, or choose something new all the way around because you're not seeing a situation through the lens of resentment or holdback anymore. Now, that's a nice, easy energy offering you a bit of solution. But we've also got this beautiful Cancerian conversation that is going on over here with Uranus as well. Now, the moon is in a sextile to Uranus. So not only is this an aspect of ease, but we intelligently take action on it as well, okay? Now, this is what I would call being connected to the moon, being in Cancer, a really intuitive aspect. And it's going to encourage an emotional breakthrough. This one is at the level of emotion. Here we're in the tangible reality. Here we're at the level of emotions, okay? So it's a little bit of innovative and creative help to help you tap into ways to release things, ways to nurture yourself, nourish innovative and creative ways to feel secure in embracing all of the change that's maybe happening around you. And look, it's not too far away, but Pluto's moved into this Aquarian vibration. The world around you may be really different, feeling really uncertain. You don't even really know what it feels like in the vibration. So how can we have a creative way to nurture yourself, feel secure? You know, I also think that this is a great aspect here. If you've been feeling stuck emotionally in any way, this sextile can bring a little bit of clarity, and it brings an opportunity for healing as well. So when we put this ease that's available under this aspect together, first of all, I think that it gives a sense of reinvention. But I also think that it gives a bit of a sense to us of progress. I'm on a mission. I am reinvented. I can see, I can celebrate, where I am different now, where I've been made different, where I'm seeing the world through different eyes, which is a really massive thing for human beings to be able to do, especially if we're doing it at a time where the energy around us is feeling, a little bit more uncertain. So what does this mean for you? Right? Because that is really what it comes down to. What does all of this mean for you? So I would offer to you the invitation to, first of all, again, celebrate. You've built something at this time. But it's an invitation at this moment to reflect on, first of all, what is your work-life balance? What does that look like right now? Have you been prioritizing your career at the expense of your emotional well-being, or vice versa, of course? Or have you been prioritizing your career at the emotional expense of your partner or your children in your home? If someone were to ask your partner or your children what it's like to spend time with you, what are they going to say about you? Are they going to say, I don't know, she's always in her office, right? What does this look like in your life? It's an opportunity to reflect on, do you have something in your emotional realm that is unresolved? And it continues to come up. It's really been in this sphere. We've been working on it even a little bit before this July timeframe. And then here you were like, no, I'd like that to be different, right? So is there a space where you're finding at this lunation that you do? There's like this lingering resentment, especially anything tied to home, tied to family. And it needs to be addressed and it needs to be released at this particular time. And the last thing I would really kind of think about with all of this Uranus in here is, it's time to step into change. It is time to step into some change. So where can you embrace freedom? Where can you embrace innovation, reinvention in both your personal and your professional lives? Where can you embrace it? Put your arms around the fact that you've never been here before. What would it be like to travel without that resentment? What would it be like to open your mouth about that person who you feel some kind of way about and have only kindness come out, or have no emotional reaction, no physical reaction in your body? This is a harmonious influence that Uranus is bringing in. So I think that this, even though we've got all of this Mars retrograde and that energy is moving backwards and we're not quite able to push it all forward, I do think that this gives a sense of, I am different. There is forward momentum here. Even though Mars retrograde is asking me to slow down and do more of a reassessment, the combination of these makes it a really perfect lunation and a time for emotional honesty and some really, really nice breakthroughs. So where would I go next if I were you, if I was your astrologer advising you through this? Again, go back to your own chart first. And I would move into the position with this lunation of reclamation. Reclaim your emotional freedom. This full moon is a powerful opportunity for you to reclaim that balance, to shed those old patterns, to embrace some progress, right? Let the energy guide you to be in that alignment that you're feeling. And over the next 2 weeks, let this insight, let this video, let what we're talking about, let it unfold for you, in you, through you, and take the steps that feel the most authentic to you, that feel the most next available for you. I always like to talk about low-hanging fruit, right? So what is a low-hanging fruit move that you could use? You could take some action on it to move forward. Now, don't forget that at this lunation, it is a lunation in water. So if you're going to be journaling or meditating or doing any of those things that help us to process these emotions, especially the ones that the full moon brings up, because sometimes you just cannot get to those emotions until the timing and the alignment is right, do it near water. Cancer loves that stuff. Cancer loves being near water, near that energy. And actually, I'm going to put a link at the end of this video. I did a video a long, long time ago about how being near water can help you channel. And I actually walked you through an activity in that I still use to this day. All right, my absolutely beautiful friends, I love you a ton. On the way, we've got more videos where we are going to talk about the rest of what's happening in 2025, to include the nodes, as the true node is getting ready to change signs. But before you do that, go check out that video about the water thing I'm telling you about at the end here, and definitely make sure you go back and listen through your 2025 video to see what is coming for you for the rest of 2025. Especially, they're really long, so if you didn't make it all the way through, take on your next section, okay? All right, my beautiful friends, I will see you in our next video.